Here we are in the year 2022, or as I like to call it, 61 after space. And this is the January 2022 session of the Storytelling by and for Adult series. And Swati, thank you very much for being the first storyteller. So please introduce yourself fully and tell us where you're telling from, and perhaps introduce the story, and please tell us a story.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Eric. Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Swati, and I narrate stories by the name Kahaniwachak. So I am popularly known as Kahaniwachak Swati. I sometimes write stories for myself, and my favorite audience is kids because they are the most attentive audience and who can be with you at any kind of things, games that you come up with, and they are the most active and attentive listeners. But having said that, I also narrate stories to adults, and I enjoy that as well. Um, After the pandemic has struck, I have actually gone slow on narrating stories. I am in the process of writing a book which is about taboos. Indian society has a lot of taboos, and I'm trying to pick up most of them and write stories which are almost, based on some true story. So for that, I have been working hard, and it's going really slow, but I'm working on that. Apart from that, I'm also working on a project which was started by World Diabetes Foundation, and it's aided by USAID and Dalberg Media. So there was a competition and my team won. So we have now got some funds wherein we have to educate our target audience was truck drivers. So we are educating the truck drivers through some videos, through some health camps. And that is what I'm doing currently. It will go on till maybe April or May. So that was the introduction. And my one of my favorite genres is mythology. So the story that I picked up today after I saw Eric mentioning conversation, the first story that came to my mind was The Conversation, which is one of the strongest stories based on conversation that I have heard till now, is between the death god Yamraj and Savitri. And this story has been picked up from the great epic Mahabharata. So I'll give you a background of the story first, and then I'll go to the story just for everybody's understanding. Okay, so this story has been picked up from Mahabharata, although it's not the one of the parts of Mahabharata, but again, it's a story narrated inside a story. And this story has been narrated by one of the sages, Rishi Markandeya, who visits the Pandavas. I'm just giving you a brief narration about Mahabharata so that you're all with me. In the Mahabharata, the Pandavas, the five brothers, were sent to exile for 12 years and 1 year of Agyatwas, where they were not supposed to reveal their identity. So total 13 years of exile. And the five brothers were serving this exile along with their wife, a common wife, Draupadi, who is also known as Panchali. So while they were in exile, Yudhishthir one day is very heartbroken because he has seen these hardships. He's towards the end of the 12 years of exile, and he's really upset. He's heartbroken. He does not know what to do to get rid of this exile. He's upset because he has got into this punishment because of a very weird dice game that they lost. And when he was repenting his decision of getting into that game and losing that game, Rishi Markandeya, the sage Markandeya, visits them. And Yudhishthir cannot stop himself but to narrate this whole incident that had happened with him, and also to feel bad about what he has been going through, his brothers have been going through, his beloved wife has been going through. So he tells Rishi Markandeya, why is it that I am facing so much trouble along with my wife and my brothers? Has anybody ever in this whole world, in the history of universe, has gone through such hardships that we are going through? And then Rishi Markandeya tells him that yes, something like this has already happened in the past in the life of Lord Rama, when Lord Rama and Sita from Ramayana had faced similar exile of 14 long years, and where they had faced all the hardships possible. But Yudhishthir is not convinced somehow. He still needs to know more about any such incident that had happened where a wife had suffered so much because of her husband. And then Rishi Markandeya says, yes, there's been another incident. The story of Savitri, who was the most righteous woman, the most dedicated, devoted wife of Satyavan, who has faced lots of hardships and still come out winning. And Yudhishthir is intrigued to know what had happened with Savitri. So Rishi Markandeya in the Mahabharata narrates the story of Savitri and Satyavan. So now I'll narrate the story of Savitri and Satyavan, which includes the conversation between Yamraja, the death god, and Savitri. So the story starts long, long years ago when the king, Savitri's father, doesn't have a child. So he and his wife have been praying to goddess Savitri for long, long years. Each day, they very religiously pray to the goddess Savitri for a son. Goddess Savitri hears their prayers but never responds. This keeps on happening for 18 long years. But the king doesn't give up. After 18 long years, one day, Goddess Savitri appears in front of the king and tells him that she is very happy with their dedication and devotion. She also tells him that they will be blessed with a daughter, the daughter who will be as righteous, as powerful, like Goddess Lakshmi. And then they are blessed with a daughter who they lovingly name Savitri after Goddess Savitri. As Savitri grows up, she becomes very strong and powerful in words. So once she reaches marriageable age, all the princes and kings around their kingdom are scared to get married to her. They don't find themselves worthy to get married to such a righteous lady. And that's why that becomes a thing of worry for the king as well. The king Ashwapati, Savitri's father, is worried because nobody dares to marry Savitri, but she has reached a marriageable age. So what should be done? So one day, King Ashwapati calls Savitri and tells her, my dear daughter, because you already know that there's no such prince around our kingdom who would like to marry you because of your virtue, I would like you to go out around the world to look for a groom for yourself. Savitri agrees and goes on a voyage along with some of the ministers. She goes to different kingdoms, to north, to south, to east, to west. But she doesn't find any prince who's as good as her would-be husband. While coming back to their own kingdom, they cross a forest. There, Savitri spots Satyavan, who's picking up firewoods. She falls in love instantly with Satyavan. And she feels that he is just the right groom for her. The minister goes to find out about Satyavan and comes back and tells Savitri that Satyavan is the son of an exiled king. The exiled king and queen are living in that forest along with their son Satyavan. Savitri is immediately ready to get married to Satyavan and they quickly come back to their kingdom. When Savitri goes and informs about this to her dad, King Ashwapati, Narad Muni, I hope you all know about Narad Muni. He's one of the very interesting characters of mythology. He is a worshipper of Lord Vishnu, and he always comes to different places to help people know about the world. And he always comes out saying, Narayan, Narayan. Narayan is Lord Vishnu, and he prays to Lord Vishnu. So here, Ashwapati has a visitor as Narada Muni. And Narada Muni hears to the conversation between Savitri and King Ashwapati. Narad has a smile on his face when he hears that Savitri wants to marry Satyavan. Of course, he's a lord, he knows everything. So he tells Ashwapati that Satyavan is the best choice for Savitri. But there's one problem. Ashwapati is worried. He has his only daughter Savitri. He doesn't want to get into any problems. So he checks with Lord Narada. And Narada Muni says, although Satyavan is the most virtuous prince ever known in this world, but the problem is that he is supposed to die. He might die in a year from now, from this date. Ashwapati doesn't want his daughter to marry someone who's going to die in a year's time. So he tells Savitri, no, you can't marry Satyavan. I'll look for someone as good as Satyavan for you. But Savitri, as determined that she was, she says, now that I have chosen him as my would-be husband, my decision will not change. And Narada Muni gives his affirmation for that. He says, you should go ahead, take your wife's permission, go ahead and get your daughter married to Satyavan. So they go to the forest, and the wedding happens in the forest, where Savitri leaves behind all her princely leisures, and she stays in the forest along with her husband Satyavan and her in-laws, the king and the queen, who have been exiled. A year passes by very peacefully and very happily. The king and the queen love Savitri, their daughter-in-law, and Satyavan is madly in love with Savitri. They like her a lot. But now, today is the day. After 4 days, Satyavan has to take his last breath, and Savitri is really worried. What should she do to protect him from dying? She thinks, and she thinks really hard. And then she comes up with a plan. She takes a vow of 3 nights where she'll fast. She'll stand at one place without food and water for 3 whole days. Everybody tries to stop her. No, my dear daughter-in-law, you cannot do that. Satyavan says, my dear wife, you don't need to take such a thing, such a vow. Don't go for it. Why do you want to do it? Savitri has this hidden thing inside her heart, which she cannot express to anybody. She cannot tell this to anybody. Satyavan is going to die in 4 days. So she just says, I want to do this. Please let me do this. I'm strong enough to do this. And they all have to listen to her. After the 3 days of vow, Savitri has to bear that this is the last day of her husband's life. The day starts, and Satyavan, as usual, picks up his axe, is going to the forest to collect firewoods and fruits. And Savitri says, oh, Satyavan, I want to go with you today. You cannot go alone. Satyavan is surprised. Why does she want to go to the forest after 3 nights? Wow, such rigorous vow. She must be very weak. He tries to stop her. No, my darling Savitri, you cannot go with me. But Savitri is adamant as always. She says, I have to go. I want to see the forest. And please do not stop me. I cannot let you go all alone today. And as usual, everybody agrees, and Savitri goes to the forest along with Satyavan. While Satyavan makes Savitri sit under a tree, he collects some fruits and gives them to Savitri to eat. In the meanwhile, he is collecting firewoods. Suddenly, Satyavan feels an excruciating pain in his head. He does not know what's happening. He's not feeling well. He goes near Savitri and tells her, my darling wife, I don't know why I'm having this excruciating pain in my head. I cannot concentrate on my work. I'm feeling very tired. Savitri knows, but she tells him, my dear husband, you take some rest, lie on my lap and take some rest while you feel better. You must be really tired. Satyavan does that. He lies down on Savitri's lap and gradually goes into deep sleep. Savitri is worried. She's still thinking. Her mind is working fast. What to do? How to take care of her husband? Suddenly, she sees an image in front of her. It's so mighty that she knows it's not a human being. It's standing right in front of her, wearing a red cloak. Savitri can see him clearly, so she questions, "Who are you? You don't look like a human being. You must be some god." And that figure tells her, "I'm surprised. How can you see me? I'm the god of death, Yamraj. And only the virtuous can see me. I think it's because of your 3 nights vow that you can see me clearly and talk to me as well. My dear daughter, this is the end of your husband's life. I've come to take his spirit along with me." Savitri cannot say anything, but Yamraj takes away Satyavan's spirit and starts walking towards south. Savitri keeps down her husband's dead body from her lap and starts walking behind Yamraj. After walking a few steps, say 7 steps, Yamraja looks back. He can feel someone walking behind him, and he sees Savitri right behind him. He's surprised. Who follows the death god? He checks with Savitri. "My dear daughter, why are you coming behind me? It's not allowed. You please go back and take care of your in-laws. They must be waiting for you." Savitri says, "You're taking away my life, my lord. How can I go back?" Yamraj says, "This was the destined life of Satyavan. I cannot change it. You have to go back, my dear. But since you have had that much of courage to follow me till here, I'll give you a boon. You can ask for anything except for your husband's life." So Savitri says, "Thank you, Lord Yamraja. If you could give back my father-in-law's eyesight, which was taken away while the fight during the exile." He says, "So be it. Now you please go back." Savitri thanks him, but continues following Yamraj. After another few steps, Yamraja is looking back surprised that Savitri is still following him. He stops and asks, "My dear daughter, why do you follow me? It is not allowed. I'll have to send you back. Please go back." Savitri again replies, "Lord Yamraja, you are the king Dharma. That's why you're Dharmaraj. You give justice to all. Please do some justice to me. Give me justice." Yamraja says, "It's not in my hands, but I can give you another boon, except for your husband's life." And Savitri says, "Thank you so much. Please give back my father-in-law's kingdom. He has suffered a lot in the forest." And so Yamraja says, "So be it." And he keeps walking towards south. Savitri again follows him. She's very determined to take back Satyavan's life from Yamraja. Yamraja looks back and says, "Oh my God, I do not understand. I've already given you 2 boons. Although I respect you a lot, you are a strong woman, but you cannot follow the death god. You have to go back." She says, "I cannot. You have to give me what I want. Otherwise, I'm not asking anything else for myself. It's only my life that you're taking away." Yamraja says, "I give you another boon. Ask for anything except your husband's life." And she says, "Please bless my father with sons so that they can rule his kingdom." Yamraja happily agrees and says, "So be it." And says, "My child, you must be very tired now. Please go back." But Savitri, as determined and as thoughtful she was that she has to do what she has thought in her mind, she keeps following Yamraja. Again, after a few steps, Yamraja stops and says, "This is it. You cannot follow me further. Now you tell me what you want. This will be your last boon." And Savitri says, "Okay, Dharmaraja, please bless me that me and Satyavan have 100 sons." Yamaraja, without thinking, says, so be it. And Savitri is blessed with 100 sons with Satyavan. And Dharmaraja starts his journey ahead and notices that Savitri is still following him. So he stops and turns back and tells Savitri, what does it now? I have given your final boon. And Savitri laughs and says, Lord Dharmaraja, you have given me a boon of having 100 sons with Satyavan. But how am I going to have it if you're taking away Satyavan's life? Dharmaraja is perplexed. He does not know what to do now. He's caught in his own words. And so he says, no one can win over such a righteous, a virtuous lady like you. You are a wonderful wife to Satyavan. He's blessed to have you as his wife. And I cannot take back his life from you. I have to give it back to you, my darling daughter. And so Lord Yamaraja gives back Satyavan's life to Savitri. He also blesses her that you and Satyavan will live for 400 more years together. Savitri is really happy. She's delighted that she has finally got the boon that she has been wanting to. She thanks Yamaraja and rushes back to the spot where she had left Satyavan. Satyavan is gradually coming up. He's getting up now. And when she reaches him, he's actually surprised that he slept for so long. It's dark now. He gets up and says, oh my God, I slept for so long. It's dark. My parents must be worried. Let's go back home. But Savitri is delighted. She knows what she's got today. Even though it's dark, she has achieved what she wanted to. So she quickly picks up, helps Satyavan get up, and they both start moving towards their home. Everybody is delighted to see them. And the parents are really happy. They do not know how the eyesight has come back, and there's some minister coming to tell them that the kingdom is waiting for the king. So Savitri narrates the whole story to everybody, what had happened and how she wins back Satyavan's life from Yamraj. And that is the most important and effective communication or a conversation that I have ever come across. And that's the end of my story. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. It would also be good to hear the reaction of the lady who the Rishi was telling the story to, right? Did she also appreciate the story?
You mean to say Yudhishthir?
Yes, at the beginning of the story, you were telling that
Yes.
this lady wanted to hear, has anyone suffered like me?
So it's Yudhishthir, the eldest brother of Pandavas, the five brothers. And the narration goes like this, that he is inspired, and he actually, Yudhishthir is one of the wisest brothers of the Pandavas. So he is of course convinced that there have been instances where women have fought for their husbands' lives and they have served exile along with their husbands. So of course he's quite convinced that this.
Oh, so the Rishi tells the story to a man.
To a man, yes.
I'm sorry.
Yudhishthir, the eldest brother of the Pandavas.
Wonderful, very good. Yeah, so you might include, because you're taking us inside a story within inside of a story. So if you're going to introduce that man who's listening to the story, you might also on the way out, say a word about how he enjoyed the story.
Sure. Since it's a long story, it could not be covered in one session. So I tried to, make it as short as possible.
It was
but of
fine.
course, when taken. Yes, of course. Thanks, Eric.
Anybody, any thoughts, comments, questions? It was very striking that you told the story in the present tense. Was that a conscious decision?
It can be, more effective if we do it in the present tense, because this is a conversation happening between two very powerful individuals. if we do
Well,
it,
go ahead.
if we do it in the past tense, that essence somehow I would not be able to bring through, which I could have done in the present tense more.
Well, whenever there is dialogue between characters, it naturally goes into the present tense, because that's the only way dialogue can happen.
Yes.
But there are different approaches. One approach is that if we tell a story in the past tense, it has more of a feeling of solidity, because this is something that happened and we all know that it happened and it happened in a certain way. Whereas if we tell it in the present tense, it's more, things are sort of more up in the air. We don't know, and maybe even it seems the storyteller may not know how it's going to end. So there is a certain solidness to telling in the past tense. And also it's you get more distance from it. And sometimes that distance is useful, is valuable, is pleasurable.
Okay. I'll try doing that for sure. Thanks for your feedback.
On the other hand, I've always been told that when we're writing down dreams, we should write them in the present tense.
Yes.
Because we will remember more. More will come to mind if we relive it in the present tense. Anybody else? Anyone have any thoughts about past tense or present tense?
I wanted to just add something. Swati, that was a lovely narration. I think the universe is all about manifestation. So even something which is as final as death, this story gives a new hope. And that even something that, we feel is final, you can change the ending there too. And there are not many stories where, death is defeated. There are a lot of stories like The Appointment in Samara where, death is waiting to take away somebody from the planet. So I think that way, there's a lot of lessons in this, to look at a positive side of everything. You can win over anything if you work at it and you want something that much. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
It's a little share.
In fact, I watched a movie last evening, Bell Bottom, and there was a script, dialogue in it, which actually struck me very hard. It said, it's not over. Not yet.
Say it again. I didn't hear that last bit.
It's not yet over till it's over. It's a code word that is used by a raw agent, but it's so true that it's up to you when you decide it's over.
Well, I take a story like this on a poetic level, where I may not necessarily believe in the historical actuality of this story, but to me, I connect with it in terms of that if we are very determined, persistent, courageous, devoted, we work hard, we stay focused, then somehow some miracle might happen.
True.
Or some sort of breakthrough might happen that we could not have imagined.
True.
I think you did a very skillful job of transitioning from introducing the story to really bringing the story to life. Okay. You know what happens when people first enter this Zoom room, they're supposed to be muted automatically. But somehow, some people, when they first come in, they get unmuted. So I have to be very quick to mute the people who when they first come in. But I don't understand why it's happening, because I have the setting set so that the mic should be muted when they first come in. But anyway, anybody, if there's a little noise for a moment, please ignore it, and hopefully I'll mute it within a moment. But yes, I think you did a very skillful job of transitioning from introducing the story to telling the story. The difference is when we introduce a story, we sort of give a summary of it and describe things without acting them out, perhaps. Like you mentioned that they prayed for a son. I almost wanted to hear the prayer that they spoke, and then the goddess spoke to them. I almost wanted to hear fully what the goddess said to them, but you know, to do all of that kind of dialogue would make the story a lot longer, and you have to draw the line someplace. But it was shortly after that that you transitioned into actually giving the full dialogue. But that's the difference between describing a story and telling the story. When we describe it, we're kind of setting it up. We're giving a sort of summary. We're giving the information necessary to understand what's going to happen. In theater, that's called exposition. But then once the story really begins, then we want to actually hear, you know, all the living process that the characters are going through. We don't want to just hear a summary of it. And you, once you got going, you gave us their words. You let them speak for themselves.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. Although I'm not too well today, so I couldn't be more expressive, but I tried my level best.
You know, a number of the storytellers today said that.
Oh.
I hope they all appear, and I hope they all do as well as you. But of course, the great glory of video conferencing is that we can be a little unwell, and we don't have to worry about being contagious to other people.
True, absolutely.
Okay, anybody else? Any thoughts about any aspect of this story or the storytelling before we go on? Okay, now those of you, there are about 15 people with your cameras turned off. That's fine, but if you can turn your camera on at some point, tellers do like to look at people's faces as they tell. And certainly in the discussion after a story, it's wonderful if you can join the discussion and show your image. Neerupama, there you are. How are you feeling?
Hello, thank you so much. First of all, wishing you a very happy new year to everyone. Yeah, I'm not well still. I'm in fever and having some throat infection, but as I committed, so I thought that I cannot give up on this. So I tried my best to be there, and I took enough rest so that I had enough energy to move on.
Now you are going to tell a story called The Diamond Within.
Yeah.
And that is based on a story titled Bella in the book Inspirations from Swami Vivekananda, Parables for Young Readers. So is The Diamond Within based on a story that Swami Vivekananda told, or a story somebody else told?
So basically, definitely, there are some points where the author has taken from whatever Swami Vivekananda had shared, his thoughts, his his feelings about like how people should really move on in life. So that is authored by Shekhar Sarkar. So definitely there are some of the elements of Swami Vivekananda.
And, so Shekhar Sarkar received the teachings of Swami Vivekananda and created this story, which Shekhar Sarkar felt was a illustration of one of Swami Vivekananda's messages.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
So I'll introduce myself if you allow me.
Please introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're telling from. And my trademark request is, and please tell us a story.
Yes, thank you so very much. So first of all, I just wanted to thank Eric for giving this beautiful opportunity and platform. And today, when I'm a part of this session, I have that feeling that I'm a part of the global family. So thank you. Thank you so very much. So my introduction, I'm Neerupama Vadera. I'm an entrepreneur. I have my international shipping company in Delhi. And besides this, I'm a theater practitioner, an actor, storyteller, and Buddhist practitioner. Yeah. So my life really turned when I started my Buddhism practice, which gave me a vision to work for the society. So I started my own theater group named I Can Do It Theater Group, and which majorly works for underprivileged juveniles, prisoners, drug addict children and adults, and abandoned girls and boys and adults. So my major forte is this only. And besides this, I take my stories to all these lives because I strongly feel that if I have some talent, so it should really create some transformation in society. And my mentor, Dr. Daisuke Ikeda, has said a very beautiful thing, which I would like to quote here, that when you lit lantern for others, your own life lightens up. So when I understood this, I started more and more for those people to really transform them. And the beautiful thing which I would like to mention here, that in some of my theatrical workshop, which I was taking for juveniles, few juveniles came to me and they, shared their heart that, ma'am, now we are not going to do anything wrong. We want to live a happy life where we can serve our family. So this was, the real reward what I got from my theatrical work, basically. So this is what I really consider my talent for. And besides this, about the story, I would like to give a small introduction, that this is a story of a lazy man who wanted all the comforts of life, but he didn't want to work hard. So, for the search of his dreams coming true, he went in search of some magic band or a genie so that he could fulfill all his desires. So, he met someone in this journey who thought of teaching him a lesson where he could really live a life where he's not depending upon his these fantasies. So finally he got a lesson, and then he was really ashamed of his these thoughts, and something happened very interesting. After that, he had a very good life with his wife, though his wife also tried to convince many times to just work, but he never listened to her. So now I'm going to narrate my story ultimately. So thank you so very much. Thank you. So once upon a time, there was a lazy man named Manglu. He lived with his wife, Sushila. Since his childhood, he always dreamed of having some magic band or a genie through which he could fulfill all his dreams and desire. So one fine day, he went to his wife and said, Sushila, Sushila, just listen to me. As I have been always dreaming of some genie or a magic band, now I'm finally going in search of same. So please just be with me. Just be my strength. Listening this, Sushila was quite upset. And then she said, my God, why don't you understand? There is nothing as such magic band or a genie. Just work hard, believe in yourself, and you will have all your dreams and desire come true. Please. Hearing this, Manglu was a bit angry and said, you are never going to understand my feelings, my utter desire. Just go away. Now I'm going in search of same. Please go away and don't disturb me anymore. Finally, he ate his food and slept. And next morning, he started his journey. Though he was a bit nervous, bit afraid, as he was thinking what is going to happen. But still, to make his journey more joyful, he started singing songs. La 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 la. La 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 la. My dreams are going to be true. My dreams are going to be true. I'll show this to everyone. I'll show this to everyone. La 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 la. La 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 la. And then he kept singing on and on and on. And then he reached in a deep forest. There he saw a huge tree, and under that tree sat hermit with a white long beard. His eyes were closed because he was deeply involved in prayers. Seeing him, Manglu was so happy. Wow. And but on the other side, as he was impatient, he was a little bit disturbed and upset because he wanted to talk to the hermit. So, to distract the hermit, he tried various methods. He coughed, he sneezed, achoo, and then finally he sang a song. La 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 la. La 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 la. But everything was just in vain. So finally, he slept there, and next morning, hermit got up, and he said to Manglu in bit anger voice, "Who are you, foolish man? Tell me why you were disturbing me, and what do you want?" Manglu said, my lord, I came from very far off place with lots of hope. I want some genie or a magic band who could fulfill all my dreams and desire, and we could get rid of a poverty. Please help me, my lord. Hearing this, Hermit said, "Oh, you mean to say that you want a comfortable life without working hard? Don't do this. This is not right, Manglu." Then again, Manglu said, "My lord, please don't do this. I really came with great hope to you. Please bless me with some magic band." And then Hermit said, "Okay, take this magic band and just tie on your right hand wrist. And after this, say 3 times, Atantu, Atantu, Atantu. And then you will see a big genie appearing in front of you, and you can start ordering your wishes. But remember one thing, if you stop ordering, genie may imprison you. So don't forget this." But Manglu was so excited, so joyful that he forgot the warning and he paid no attention to it. So finally, he took the magic band and went back to his home. This time he was more excited. La la la, la la la, la la la, la la la. And finally, he reached back to his home and narrated everything what happened to his wife. But again, Sushila took not any interest in whatever he shared. So finally, he ate his food and took out that magic band, tied in his right hand wrist, and said 3 times, "Atantu, Atantu, Atantu." And there appeared a big genie. And then genie said, "Yes, my lord Manglu, what can I do for you? Your wish is my command." "Yes, my lord Manglu, please tell me, what's your wish?" And then Manglu was a bit afraid because he was so huge and he didn't believe that he was calling him Manglu Lord. But still, he recalled, "I'm the master today, so let me start my wishes." And his first wish was, "Genie, replace this hut and build a big palace for me." And in no time, same was done. And then Genie said, "What's your next wish, my lord?" And then Maglu said, "Yeah, I want lots of clothes for my beautiful wife, furniture, bullock cart, utensils, shoes." And in no time, the same was done too. And then again, Genie said, "What's your next wish, my lord?" "Please tell me." Manglu said, give me a break, let me think. No, I cannot give you break. Just tell me your next wish. And then Manglu said, yeah, I remember. I want lots of money. Yes. Gold, silver, and lots of diamonds in my house so that I could tell everyone and I could show everyone that I'm the richest man in this village. Please do this. And in no time, same was done too. And now, Genie said again, what's your next wish, my lord? Tell me fast. Uh, Manglu said, next wish? Oh God, I don't remember my next wish now. What should I order? I really don't remember. Seeing this, Genie got angry and said, now get ready for imprisonment, you Manglu. Yes, either order me something. And finally, Manglu didn't have anything to order. And then he ran from there to reach to Hermit as fast as possible to save from the genie. So finally, he just ran. And then Manglu was followed by Genie, and Genie was following Manglu. Manglu was followed by Genie, and Genie was following Manglu. And this went on and on. And finally, Manglu reached to Hermit and bowed down and said, my lord, please help me, my lord. Please help me to get rid of this genie. He's going to imprison me. And then Hermit said, you foolish Manglu, I warned you that if you stop ordering him, he was going to imprison you. But you didn't pay any attention. Now bear the fruit of your deed. Manglu said, no, my lord, there might be some way out. Please help me. I came with great hope, my lord. Okay, then Hermit said to him, now tell Genie to take back everything what he has given you. Manglu was very disappointed to hear this. He said, no, my lord, don't do this, please. He said, okay, then just be ready to bear the fruit of your deeds. And he said, no, I'm telling Genie, just wait. Genie, take back everything what you have given me. Please take back everything. And just no time, everything was taken back. And now Genie said, my lord, please tell me your next wish. And then Hermit whispered something to Manglu. And then Manglu said, Genie, straighten the tail of a hermit's dog. And then Genie went to straighten the tail of hermit's dog. And to everyone's surprise, as many as times he tried to straighten the tail, it curled up again. So this process went on and on of straightening, curling up, straightening, curling up, straightening, curling up of the tail. And finally, this was the time by the hermit to Genie. And this is how Manglu finally got rid of Genie. And now Hermit said to Manglu, look, Manglu, you are a good human, but you became so lazy and you became greedy. This is not life. This is really not life. And remember one thing, Manglu, the diamond you are looking here and there, right? It's within you. The more you polish yourself, the more you become a better person. Just work hard in life. Believe in yourself. Believe in your wife. And then you will really become happy. After hearing this, Manglu was so ashamed of himself and he really bowed down and said, thank you so much, Lord. Thank you for opening my eyes. I was really so greedy. I always wanted shortcuts in my life to become happy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Even my wife, she always guided me to work hard, but I never paid any attention to her. Thank you so much, my Lord, for really making me a better person by teaching me this lesson. Thank you. I'm going to polish myself and I'm going to shine like a beautiful diamond in my life. Thank you so much, my Lord. And finally, he went back to his home. He hugged his wife, Sushila, apologized, and now Manglu was no more lazy. So both of them lived happily ever after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Beautifully told.
Yeah.
Mhm. You have a very strong communication ability. You know, a part of it is that you're looking into the camera and making eye contact with us. At least we feel that way. But you're very relaxed and feeling a lot of emotions, expressing a wide range of emotions. And the other people, you know what I'm talking about, right? She's a strong, clear communicator. It's a certain talent.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's that way also when you're telling to a live audience.
Yeah.
Mhm. I was glad that you slowed down at the very end. When the character said, you became greedy, but the diamond is within you. At that time, you slowed down a little bit. I think it'd be good if you might slow down a few other times also, because when you keep going at such a fast pace, it loses it. A story has to have dramatic shape. You know, it has to build up and slow down. So I know you were probably trying to rush to get it all in within a certain time, but I suggest do a little bit more variation in your speed.
Okay.
When we slow down, it sinks in. It sinks into the character, it sinks into the teller, it sinks into the listener, and it's pleasurable to slow down at times.
Okay.
Anyone else have any thoughts, comments, questions, resonations?
I think this was the best story to start the year with. A true bodhisattva, in fact. When I could relate to everything that you were saying, and I was like, now what, And at the end, when you said that statement, when you slowed down, like how Eric said right now, I think that has driven the point to all of us, that where should we look for the answers within. Thank you so much.
You're like I'm gonna
Just a second, that was Priya. That was Priya, who you have your camera turned off, but we heard you loud and clear. Good. Anybody else?
I would just like to add story to begin the new year. Really, everybody, we should work hard to drive out the virus. So for that, it really needs a lot of courage and good thoughts and working hard. That is very important. So it's a lovely message for the new year. And of course, the narration was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was just going to add that Neerupama, first of all, extremely engaging story. And I feel it was very captivating. We were all like waiting what's going to happen next. So the way it was narrated and the way you were enjoying it and you were narrating the story made it even more captivating and engrossing. I really enjoyed.
There really is a certain sensation one feels as a teller, I think, when one is, expressing and communicating. Now, Neerupama, could you see the images of any of your listeners? You got to turn your mic back on, Neerupama.
Please repeat.
As you were telling, could you see the images of any of your listeners?
See, frankly speaking, I just focused on camera because, if I look here and there, it would, disturb me, my rhythm of telling a story. So I just wanted to be just focus on the camera, and because I'm a theater artist. So, for me, like a camera, like if I do for like some shooting for camera in front of camera, so I take camera as my audience, not the people standing here and there as my audience, right? So when we do so, we fully concentrate on my own story, my own performance. So I never bother that if someone is laughing on me, or if someone is passing any kind of this body language or any kind of gesture. I was not focusing on it, and this is not here if I'm doing. This is for everywhere I perform. I just focus on my story, on my performance, irrespective of not getting disturbed by any audience or anyone. So this is what I generally do in performances.
That's one method, and it was very effective. My mother, who was a dancer, a modern dancer, she passed away 30 years ago. She used to tell me that when she would dance just for a movie camera, she would pretend that there was a certain individual sort of inside that camera, or she kept the camera very much in mind with the idea that there was one individual she was dancing for, who that individual was going to see it. So she had a relationship with a person, an imaginary relationship. So that's another approach. You're using a phone, I think.
Sorry?
You're using a smartphone.
Yes.
Yes. And when possible, I think I usually feel it's best to use a laptop. Although I must say your audio and video quality were perfect. But the value of a laptop is that you can, what I do these days is when I'm telling or speaking, I leave it in gallery view. I put my own image at the bottom, or I hide my own view, because there's a temptation to look at oneself. And that's a sort of a waste of time. But I'll move the image of someone who I especially want to talk to, or I feel especially warm with, without telling them. I'll move their image to the top row center.
Okay.
And then one can look in the camera, which gives the greatest satisfaction to everybody. But through peripheral downward vision, one can also see that one special person who one is telling especially secretly telling especially for. Because there also is a value, for us storytellers in getting some sort of emotional feedback and intellectual feedback through the facial expressions and head movements of listeners. So I do recommend that, of moving the rectangle of one person to top row center. That's the equivalent in a hall or a theater to front row center. The equivalent in Zoom is top row center. And, most of the time, as you say, look in the camera, but also to the bottom of one's eye, at times be conscious of of that special person you want to talk to.
Right. Thank you.
But whether you do it this way or that way, you have a certain talent or a certain ability for opening your soul somehow to the listener, and the listener opens her soul back to you. That's a very wonderful ability.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Anyone else want to say anything? All right.
Okay. A
Oh,
small
go
one.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Swati.
Nirupama, I really like the way you use the musical instrument, because whenever I have done that in the past, I have seen that people are drawn more towards what you are singing or what you're narrating. And it's a very good tool to use between narrations. So I really like that use. And as far as what Eric, you just mentioned, I did the same in my narration. I prefer looking at people's faces when I'm talking. So I somehow end up looking at people's faces while I'm doing an online session also. And it feels good when you see expressions of curiosity and attentiveness on people's faces. So I do that quite a lot. I don't
But
know if it's the right
but
way.
the sad thing about video conferencing is when we do that, when we do look at our listeners' faces, they get the image of us looking downward,
Yeah.
which is not satisfying for them. So that's why we have to strike a compromise between looking at the camera and the time is not too far away when camera can be embedded in the screen, and we can move the camera around the screen and place it between the eyes of the image of the person we're talking to.
That'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Did anyone else want to add anything? Okay, so Susan, is it Susan Ida or Susan Ida?
Susan Ida Boucaud.
Very good. But for short, we can call you Susan Ida.
Susan Ida, yes.
Wonderful. And you are our international person today, our only teller from outside India. You're in Toronto, right?
Toronto, Ontario.
Wonderful. Okay, so please introduce yourself fully and introduce the story, and please tell us.
Thank you. As was just shared, my name is Susan Ida Boucaud, and I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And if you would like information about myself, you could just go to www.boucaudinthestory.com, and Boucaud is spelled B-O-U-C-A-U-D. This telling is from a book that was published in 1917, and it is called The Sandman's Hour, and the author is Abby Phillips Walker. And there's a charming story called Diana Cat and the Witch. And this telling is based on that story. A long time ago, there was a girl that was suddenly made an orphan. And she had no friends except for a cat. A mean landlord cast her out into the street. And as she was walking on the street, she realized her homeless state, and she started to cry. And the crying led to deep sobs. Diana, the cat, tried to comfort Betty, the name of the little girl, by purring and moving her body around her feet, but nothing soothed Betty. And so finally, Dinah the cat got on her forelegs and looked at Betty and said, "Mistress, will you please stop crying? Please, I will take care of you. Just stop crying." Well, Betty was shocked. Here was her cat speaking to her. And after she got over the shock, she said, "Dinah, you can't take care of me. You're a cat. But we will go to the city and I will try to get work there. And if I get work, then I can take care of you. But if I don't get work, you're going to have to live somewhere else. And at the very least, you can feed yourself with the mice and rats that are on the street." "No, no, no, mistress," said Dinah the cat. "You come with me." And she extended her paw to her. And Betty took her paw. So paw in hand, they walked into a wooded area. Now, in that wooded area, there were two trees that were kind of leaning against each other. And between the two trees, there was a gap. And Dinah said, "Come, mistress, come. We will walk through the gap." And so Betty just followed. And when they came to the other side, there was a hall, a beautiful hall with a long, winding staircase. "Come, mistress," said Diana. And they walked up the staircase to another floor. "In that room there," said Diana, "just open the door and you go in there and you will find many dresses. Put on a dress that you like, and then after we will go and dine." "Dine?" said Betty. "Dine." So she just opened the door, went in, chose a dress, put it on, and then she heard on the door. And she opened the door, and there was Dinah Cat. "Oh, that dress looks so nice on you," said Dinah. "It looks very becoming." Betty just said to Dinah, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm wearing a dress from somebody else. Now you're talking about dining? Dining in a house? I don't even know whose house this is. I'm not comfortable with any of this." "Mistress," said Dinah, "don't be concerned. I know who owns that dress, and the girl will be so pleased that it fits you the way it does. And as for dining in this home, this is my home." "Your home?" said Betty. "Yes, mistress," said Dinah. "Come." And so they walked towards the dining area. And just before they got towards the dining area, Dinah said to Betty, "Sitting at that table, there will be a boy. You may find him offensive. I'm just letting you know that." "Oh, okay," said Betty. "All right." And so they continued to walk and went into the dining area. Indeed, there was a dining table, and there was the boy, but he had a hat on with a very thick veil that fell from the hat, covering his whole face. Wow, my heavens. They had a time. Dinah, the boy, and Betty, they ate and they talked and they laughed and they had such a wonderful time. Wonderful time. And Betty saw Dinah eating food with utensils. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. As they were laughing and eating, all of a sudden, Betty heard a creaking of a door. And there was the sound, and her head just moved in the direction of the sound. She jumped up and hid underneath the chair. The boys started shaking from head, top body, just shaking. "What on earth?" thought Betty. "What is going on?" And she looked in the direction of the door, and what she saw coming through the entrance was a little old lady with a staff. And the little old lady started moving in the direction of Dinah, slowly but surely. And then all of a sudden, when she came very close to Diana, she raised her staff, and Betty, thinking that she was going to hit Diana, said, "Don't you hit her." Well, it startled the old lady, and she dropped her staff. "Quickly," said the boy, quickly, pick up that staff and throw it into the closet, quickly." And so Betty did so. And then they saw that little old lady start walking backwards to the door, and she became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until she was like a wisp of smoke that a draft blew away. "Oh," said the boy, "maybe now we can go back to our original forms." "What on earth," said Betty, "is going on? What's going on here? I don't understand. And so they explained. Dinah and the boy were brothers and sisters living in a house as orphans because their parents had passed on. They were happy, very, very happy. And one day, a knock came on the door and they opened that door. And who should be there but this little old lady with the staff? And she asked for help. So they took her in. But within days, she was miserable, complaining, whining, carrying on. It was causing them to be so unhappy. So they told her that she would have to leave. I leave, said the little old lady. I don't think so, said the little old lady. And from that time, she took her staff and she turned them into all sorts of things. The last one, the girl, became a cat, and the boy behind had a hideous, hideous face behind that veil. Well, maybe, said Betty, maybe in the closet, if we go to the closet and bring out the staff, maybe we can figure out how to turn ourselves back to the original way. And so Betty went to the closet to get the staff, but there was no staff. Instead, there was a little fairy. Hello, said the fairy. And how are you today? Oh, I am the fairy that deals with problems. I solve problems. Oh, yes, that's what I do. I love to do that. You do have a problem, don't you? Don't you have a problem for me? Well, they told her what the problem was. And she goes, oh, well, I got rid of the staff. I knew that was a problem. But as for you two, I can turn you back to your original forms. Yes, absolutely. And she took out her magic wand and she went ding to Diana, ding to the boy. And they went back to their original form. The boy no longer had a hideous face. Diana was now a little girl. Oh, my heavens. And they looked at Betty and they said to Betty, would you like to live with us, to continue to stay with us? Well, yes, I would. I indeed would. Thank you so much for asking. And then they looked to the fairy and they said to the fairy, and you, would you like to live with us? Would you like to continue to stay here? Oh, no. Oh, me? Oh, no. Oh, no. No, you see, my purpose is to solve problems. Yes. So no, I would not like to live with you. I can assure you that from now until whenever you pass on, from now, you will have absolutely no need of me whatsoever. Thank you for listening.
Fantastic. You know, I sent an email out to the storytellers this month and last month about how video conferencing is really a very intimate medium because, you know, one's face is about 12 inches away from the speaker's face or the image of the speaker's face, and it's just very personal. And this was especially the case with you, Susan Ida. Yeah, that background is wonderful. Just a solid black or gray background. And it was like you were just a few inches away from me. Isn't it, everybody? Isn't it true? And speaking directly to us in such a relaxed, real, emotional way. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Anybody? Any thoughts, comments, questions, resonations?
I would like to say something, Eric.
Go ahead.
Yeah, awesome, Susan. First and foremost, I like the black background and that ray of hope and light. That was spectacular. And your narration, I would like to say, it was perfect. It like, where it had to be down, where it had to be up. It was perfect. I thoroughly enjoyed, Susan. The story was very simple, but your narration, awesome. I loved it.
Thank you.
Moira?
Yeah, can't add much to that, but I have the privilege to have heard that story on Saturday, and I see how it had, you included a few changes, and I just, the image was even more, I don't know, three-dimensional. It's like, when you tell that the old woman is a real person, and it's completely believable that she thinks, and the fairy in the cupboard. It's you tell it in such a natural way that I don't have the slightest doubt that you all know them personally, the way you narrate it. I just loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. I also felt that way, that the way you were repeating the words, they became so impressive when you changed the modulations and still the words were the same. There's a lot to learn from you, and I would go back to the recording and hear it again and again. And I wish I have the same fairy in my cupboard when I open it this year. So, thank you so much for the wonderful story.
Helen, did you want to say something?
Yep. What has already been said, I think, Susan, you have very good facial expressions, and the way that you came forward to the camera when you had to, it's sort of very gripping. And the way that you changed your voice according to the different characters, beautifully told. Simply loved it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Susanita, what in the story do you especially connect with? What is your, what theme, what
The
takeaway?
kindness.
The kindness.
Kindness. Yes. The kindness. The kindness of Betty. I mean, it didn't say in the story, but I can imagine, that Dinah went to Betty to get out of her home, like to get out of her home because she kept on being changed, left, right, and center. I mean, the story doesn't say that, but it's the kindness, that that was passed on, right? It was just passed on. Dinah ended up taking care of Betty, and I'm sure Betty took care of Dinah, and things can happen very suddenly in life, and basically the kindness that person, yeah, and that can be looked at in terms of a global piece too, and sharing, the willingness of the brother and sister to share. They shared their house with the first person, the little, it didn't really work out that well, but but they're sharing people and they're kind people, and that attracted me. That part really attracted me. I'm attracted to stories like that where there's where there's a compassion, a kindness element to them. Yeah.
And what a fantasy that a character could relieve us of an anxiety of our choice. I mean, there are some external problems one has that, perhaps an external character could relieve us of that problem, but there are also so many internal anxieties. But evidently this fairy could even help relieve one of internal anxieties.
I know, isn't she amazing? She's just amazing, that fairy. Like she's just amazing. Abby Phillips Walker, I came across her as I was searching for fairy tales, and I didn't really know the author before, but I love her stories. It's all like that. A lot of her stories are like that, they're just amazing characters. But that fairy just takes me. It just, yeah. Mhm.
And again, somebody will say, "Oh, it's just a fairy tale. It's not true."
No.
But with devotion, time, love, courage, there can be breakthroughs.
Mhm, mhm. And the kindness of others does matter.
Mhm.
It does matter. It does
Kindness
matter.
of others
It does
and
change things.
Mhm,
Like there's
and-
that whole movement, like what is it? Pass it forward, is it? Like, you buy somebody a coffee or something and they in turn have to buy next, like it's just little kind gestures. And I think there does come a tipping point where, that translates to other things, as more and more people engage in that kindness. Yeah.
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
kindness to and from others, and also kindness and forgiveness to oneself.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you. Surekha, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, please
Okay.
introduce yourself properly and tell us where you're telling from. You're telling from one of my favorite places, actually, in Kerala, right? But tell us where you're telling
Yeah.
from, and please tell us a story.
Thank you all. And thank you, Eric, for allowing me to tell a story here. A little bit about myself. I started storytelling way back, the first batch of storytellers who came out of the library board in Singapore. And mine has been very much with education. So as an educator, I was using storytelling in the schools with children. And I have a passion for arts integrated learning, process drama. I feel that, which really, really help the children nowadays. So what shall I say? As Eric said, I live in a little pocket. I call it God's little pocket because we are supposed to be in God's own country in Kerala. And this little pocket is called Wayanad, and we are surrounded by forest. So when we relocated from Singapore, we wanted to stay somewhere serene and beautiful. So this is where we are now. So my story is not serene or beautiful. And I think I'm going to jerk you all out of this, very nice and compassionate stories to one of horror. Because when I was thinking of what shall I choose today, adults telling stories to adults. So I said, why not pick one with horror? And the story goes way back. I think it is in many cultures, but this version is from the UK. And it's from a collection by Joseph Jacobs, actually. And how this story came to be collected is over 100 years ago, everybody in Europe thought that fairy tales were from Germany or from France, and nobody really looked at England. So he took it on as a life's mission to collect folk tales from all over the UK. And within a few months, he had almost 1,000 stories. So this one's called Mr. Fox, and I hope you enjoy it. Lady Mary was beautiful. Lady Mary was bold and brave. She had 2 brothers and more lovers that she could count. Many of them wanted to marry her and asked for her hand. But she always said no. Till one day, there came a stranger, more handsome, more dashing, more charming than all of her other lovers. And when he, Mr. Fox, asked for her hand in marriage, she said, yes. Nobody knew who Mr. Fox was. Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody knew what he did. When Lady Mary and her brothers asked him where she would live after they were married. He described his castle in great detail, but strangely, he never offered to take them there. Now, the next day was to be the wedding day. The long tables were going to be arranged on Lady Mary's green lawns covered with white cloth, and a great feast was going to be held. The wedding vows were going to be signed. That was tomorrow. But today, Lady Mary was curious. She just had to know where she was going to live after she was married. So she took her favorite horse, a milky white mare, and drove into the woods, looking for Mr. Fox's house that he so clearly described to them. She rode on and on till she was in a very new part of the woods that she had never been to before. And there she saw a wall within which was a gate. And on the gate were written these words, "Be bold, be bold." Now, Lady Mary was bold and she was brave. And so she opened the door and she went in to Mr. Fox's gardens. And in front of her, a moat with a castle made of grand stone. She walked further to the door of the castle, and on top of it was written, be bold, but not too bold." But Lady Mary was bold and brave, and so she opened the door. And when she went inside, she saw a great stairway going up. So she went up and up, till she came to a gallery. And there was a small door, above which were these words, be bold, but not too bold, lest your heart's blood turn cold." Lady Mary was brave and bold, and so she opened this door and she looked inside. And her heart's blood did turn cold, for from wall to wall were hooks upon which hung skeletons and bodies of young women in their wedding clothes, stained with their own blood. She turned and she ran down the staircase, glancing at the window on the staircase, and whom should she see but Mr. Fox, dragging with him another girl in a wedding dress across his garden, across his green lawns, towards the house. She had to hide, and she looked around, and there behind the door was a great cask, and she went behind it as the door swung open, and there was Mr. Fox dragging behind him the poor woman in her wedding clothes, dripping with blood. With whatever life was left on her, she clung on to the railing, and on her finger, Lady Mary saw a diamond ring. Mr. Fox pulled and pulled and pulled, but she would not let go of the railing. And so he drew his sword and hack and hack and hack till he cut the hand, which flung and flew out of the body and fell into the shaking lap of Lady Mary. He looked here, he looked there, but he was in a hurry, and he went up the stairs, dragging the dead woman behind him. As soon as he entered the chamber of horrors, Lady Mary ran for her life. The next day was the day of the wedding, the day when the wedding vows were going to be done and the contract signed. The long tables had been set out, the white tablecloth with the feast had been laid. The guests were all there, and her two brothers. In front of her sat Mr. Fox. "My dear, you look so pale today. Is there something wrong?" Dreams. I had the most terrible dreams. Tell me, my dear, dreams are not true. Dreams are full of contraries. Tell me, what did you dream? I dreamt I went to look for your house that you described to us. I rode through the woods, and there I saw a wall with a gate on which was written, "Be bold, be bold." I opened the gate and I went in to the garden that you told us about. This is all in my dream. And there I saw the moat and a castle and another door on which was written, "Be bold, but not too bold." It is not so. It was not so. In the room, I saw the staircase, so I went up, and there was another door. And this door had it written on top, "Be bold, but not too bold, lest your heart's blood turn cold." Oh, it is not so. It was not so. I opened the door, and what did I see in my dream, Mr. Fox? From corner to corner, the walls had hooks, and on the hooks were the bodies and skeletons of young women in their wedding dress stained with blood. It is not so. It was not so. God forbid if it is so. My heart's blood was cold, so I ran down the staircase, and as I did, I looked through the window, and whom should I see in my dream but you, Mr. Fox, dragging behind you another body of a girl in her wedding dress stained with blood. It is not true. It is not so. It was not so. God forbid if it is so. He hesitated. It was so. And here I have a hand to show. Mr. Fox tried to stand up, but her brothers and her friends had their swords out, and they hacked and hacked and hacked him to 1,000 pieces. And as he bled on the white table cover and the green grass, the blood was not red, but black. And it is there to this day, a tale of horror. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Excuse me, someone's ringing at the door. I'll be right back.
Hi, Sarita. This is Andy Loffer from Sacramento, California. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here, and I just love that story. It was so good. I really enjoyed your acting and your panicky looking around when you had to hide inside the room. It was really good. Thank you for that.
Rekha, I also loved it. It was awesome narration.
Well, I was so excited to tell it. I made so many mistakes, which
that's
half the fun.
No, that's perfectly. They didn't lose the grip for the listeners. Believe me, it was so nice. You kept the horror intact. It was really nice.
I think it's a very good story because, as I told you, I'm into education. So, for Me Too movement and things like that, stories like this are very powerful. And you can really hook your audience when you do things like this. And also, when you look at the story and you're looking at the metaphors in the story, it's about silencing people. There are lots of things you can bring about using a story like this. The bodies need not be looked at as bodies, but as women who are silenced, to talking the truth, or I look at it that way, and that's why I find such stories very interesting.
Well, whether it's physical violence or emotional violence, the thing is that that man character is a predator.
Yeah,
he's a destroyer, and I guess it's important that we keep in mind that there are people like that. Medically, what they're called a sociopath. There are people like that, and there's a part of each one of us who's like that.
Lots of world leaders are like that. Sociopaths.
I guess in the Jungian approach, the shadow figure, as I say, there's a part of each one of us who just wants to destroy. Freud would call it the id, or a type of the id aspect. So we, as humans, we have to accept that that's a part of the human psyche, unfortunately, and hopefully it's not very prominent in oneself, and hopefully one can recognize and defend against it when one runs into it in others. But now it was in her dream that she saw all these things, right?
No, she just used it as a way to, to make him, she wanted him to know that she knew. And she had the proof of the hand to show. So,
so it was just a ruse to keep things calm at for a certain period.
Yeah.
Before the whole thing would really come out.
And Andrew, if you want to Google Joseph Jacobs fairy tales, you'll probably find Mr. Fox in the collection. It's available online.
Great, thank you.
He's got the book has got lots of stories, and Mr. Fox is one of them. From 1903. It's a, very old edition.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much. It's important to face the shadow, to give the devil his due. Okay, Amrita, are you ready?
Yes, Eric, yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so please introduce yourself and tell us where you're telling from, and please tell us.
Okay, namaskar, I'm Amrita, and I'm telling this story from Jaipur, Rajasthan, India. And I work as a primary teacher. I've been working since 13 years. So my love for stories started while being with children and trying to teach them certain things. But later I started telling to adults, and it became more like a soul-stirring experience. And today the story that I've chosen is a personal story. And thanks to Eric, because of whom I've been able to write a personal story. So thank you, Eric, for guiding and for inviting me here. And everybody's stories were lovely. So the title of my story is Search Within, Look Within. Love you, Zindagi. Love you, Zindagi. This was the kind of life I was living when suddenly my life changed to Abhi मुझ में कहीं बाकी थोड़ी सी है जिंदगी. My life took a complete 180-degree turn. From a happy soul, I turned into a complete emotional wreck. I was born and brought up with a silver spoon. I always got what I wanted and was leading a comfortable life. Struggles, hardships, and stress is something that I'd only heard of but never felt. Maybe I was living like a princess in a palace who did not know much about the outside world. I grew up, did my MBA, started working. Life was exciting and interesting. Then I fell in love with my Prince Charming and always thought that life will have a fairy tale ending and we will live happily ever after. My parents were extremely upset about my decision to marry him, as it was an intercaste marriage. But I was hell-bent on it. Marte kya na karte. So we tied the knot. That's when life's hardships hit me hard. I never knew financial struggles, compromises, diplomacy. Going from an open-minded nuclear setup to a conservative joint family just made my life miserable. That's when the love flew away and vanished. I wonder when that happened. I felt lonely and unwanted. There were fights, arguments, crying. This is not what I had expected out of life. Wasn't it your choice? A voice in my head repeatedly told me. I succumbed to my circumstances. I tried to talk to my mother, but all that came out was, Mummy, Mummy, actually, or nothing. As I could not make them feel any more helpless or miserable. The worst was, I had to leave my job once I'd got married, as my in-laws did not approve of me doing a full-time job. So I did not even look for another part-time. Maybe I was living a fan world matter than marrying this boy. I'm ready to make any kind of compromises for you, I had once told him happily. Little did I know what was in store for me. It is said that an empty mind is a devil's mind. I turned into a negative person. I was all the time irritated, and that further led to communication gap between my husband and me. In fact, I started having suicidal tendencies at a point of time. Run away, find a job, is what my mind often told me. I can't. I feel insecure, shattered, and frustrated, is what I told my mind. I had completely lost my confidence and zeal. I felt like a bird in a cage who had wings, wanted to fly, but was confined. That feeling of claustrophobia is still fresh in my mind. One fine day, I woke up and told myself, enough. That is not what you were born for or meant to do. I sat in front of the mirror, saw my reflection. I told myself, Amrita, wake up, take responsibility of your life, change your circumstances, and live. I knew I was the only one who had to pick up pieces of my life's jigsaw puzzle and join them. Somehow that's the day I could feel light emitting out of me. I thought of working on my own self. I made a list of all the things that I needed to change in myself. I started controlling my anger, stopped complaining, started smiling, and realized that happiness is a choice that one needs to make. I told myself, no matter what, I will be happy. My little efforts went unnoticed in the beginning, but slowly my husband's family started responding positively too. The atmosphere of the house started becoming better and the change was visible. I realized that my in-laws had always been accepting, maybe not the way I had imagined. My small efforts changed my life and I learned to be emotionally independent. I stopped expecting and complaining. My perspective towards life started changing. I think my attitude towards things brought a change in my environment and my life. Suddenly, I felt hopeful and more positive. After a few years of marriage and having my child, I thought of joining a school. Working hours would be comparatively better than a corporate job. And by then, I had made a place in my family and I was sure I'll be able to manage. I did my B.Ed, applied for a job, and luckily started working as a primary teacher with a reputed school in Jaipur. In fact, still am working. Overall, everything was normal. My work in school was going well. Things at home were reasonably settled, and my life had started blooming. My dedication and effort to teach made me a popular teacher. Children showered me with love. It increased my confidence and helped me in creating my own identity. As my son grew, so did my working hours. My career started growing in leaps and bounds. But, are you sure this is what you want to do and not shift back to corporate life? Is what my mind was asking me. I guess I always had a twinge in my heart for having left my previous job and giving up on the kind of growth that I could have got. Somewhere deep down, I felt that someday I will change my work and go back to the corporate life. I told myself it's just a matter of time. And once my son is old enough, I'll be back in the field I started with. When I saw my friends who had reached heights in their job, who had started with me, there was a sense of emptiness that I felt. And I would feel like a failure. And I often lay for hours thinking about my future, about my work, about my shifting of my career. But on the other hand, I was happy, content, and also enjoying what I was doing. My students would often tell me, "Ma'am, I enjoy your classes. Ma'am, we enjoy the games you play. We wish you are our class teacher till 12th. You are our favorite teacher." One day, I met a young man who came and touched my feet. I was taken aback as I did not know him. He looked up. In fact, he looked down because he'd grown really tall. So he looked down and said, "Amrita ma'am, I am Ketan. You taught me in 5th standard. Now I'm in college 1st year. Ma'am, our whole class, our whole batch still remembers you and we've learned a lot from you." I told him, "God bless and take care." When he left, with teary eyes, I told myself, there will be no looking back. It has all been worth it, and I'm meant to teach. This is my calling. The child told me that day that he had learned a lot from me, whereas he doesn't know that that day, because of him, what I had learned. Now my life is back to love you, Zindagi, love you, Zindagi. And if it turns back again, I know I can turn it back. We have the power within. So just apply this mantra in your life. Just be happy no matter what. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there were two major turning points in that
Yes.
story. The
Yes.
first was somehow you hit bottom in your home situation and decided to discovered some other approach that set you on a better track. And then the other was that when you were meeting with that student, that it prompted you to decide to stay with teaching.
Right, right. Otherwise, there was always a lot of, inside my heart that I'm going to change shift one day and I'm going to do that. But that day it was very clear.
I think you could make it a little more clear about the first turning point, and perhaps take a pause, more of a pause during that, as you're telling that episode, because I'm not really clear on how and why the situation transformed at that moment.
Okay.
Why did it happen at that moment?
Actually, there were a lot of things that were happening, but it's just one fine day that I just wanted that everything needs to be, wherever it is, but I need to move ahead. So that was a self-determination, or, as the title suggests, look within. That everything I need to change in my life is me who will take the step. So not the environment, nothing changed, but the realization that this is not something I'm going to keep doing and sitting and crying, but moving ahead. So that one thought, and that was so strong that I just started working towards it.
Well, anyway, if you tell it again, or if you write it and show it to anyone else, I suggest build up that transformational moment a little more.
All right, I'll take care of that.
Could I say something?
Of course, of course.
Actually, I just walked in now, and listening to your clarity of words and your expression on the face made me want to it sounded very interesting, whatever you said.
Thank
you. It was really very nicely explained, somehow it made a lot of difference, and I needed to hear it. That's it. Maybe sometimes I will ask you further what happened.
Sure.
But it was very
Actually,
nice.
also, Eric and Shraddha, why I wrote this personal stories to motivate people out there. I mean, there are a lot of women who go through a lot of things in life. Not women, just anybody. We all go through a lot of things. So, it's us who can make a difference in our life. We should not wait for somebody to come and change our life. So I really wanted to tell the story and make a difference in it a little bit also, if possible.
But many times when we hear a story like that, the main character walks out. But that was certainly not the case in your story.
Yes. And maybe also because it was a love marriage. So walking out wasn't that easy. It was my own decision. So I thought of making the best of it.
And you were able to somehow turn the tide from within.
Yeah. So if you'd seen me 10 years back and now, it's different, and everything is so settled and moving in the right direction, whether career, whether family, because, and it has all happened because I believe that I can make a difference in my life.
May I share something?
Of course.
Hello, everybody. I haven't been on this for a while. It's just so happy to see you all for the new year. And I was really touched by your story. I happen to agree with my great friend Eric that a little more information leading to the changes would be helpful, even to help other women and men find some parallels in their life. But despite that, I still was incredibly moved by your courage and by the intention of the story. And I just want to share that I've been going through some similar changes of having been very happy and then ending up in a situation that makes me quite uncomfortable and scared, and trying to find the resources inside myself to take hold of that and choose to be happy anyway. And in the midst of that, my dead father appeared by my bed 2 nights ago, absolutely as clear as a real person, for just a second. And I told him I missed him. And then he said to me, from this sort of spirit body that looked real, he said, I want you to be more happy. And then he disappeared. And so your story is coming from me at a time that's very pivotal for me. And I really appreciate it, hearing your courage. And again, I do think it would really help, even if there's a friend who helped you make the switch, or a piece of writing you read, or some level of just utter exhaustion with your own being negative and down, like to describe that a little more would be helpful. I hope that's useful feedback.
Yes,
And
thank you, Maya. Definitely. It's always good to know, and I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I would say that actually for each turning point, a little more vivid detail, a little more personal risk to bring it more home. But you can see it meant a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maya, where are you?
I've moved, and that's part of what's scaring me. I've moved to an industrial neighborhood in an old mill city in Massachusetts called Lawrence, which is very, very industrial, and kind of, 21 people were busted in a drug ring 2 weeks ago. And I'm not used to this environment, and I'm missing my family, and it's a long story. Maybe we can communicate offline.
Come back to India.
I want to. I do. I will be coming back. I just don't know when. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste, everybody. I miss India. India is very vast, many things, but there's a way it's in my heart.
Okay.
Good to hear that, Maya. Thank you. And to Amrita, I really am touched with your story. I would like to say that I like the choice of song. You started with a song and you put the song in between. That also made a little difference, and it threw some light on the mood of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the song is great. Go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a great change of pace, because that was the first personal experience story we've had tonight. All the other stories were folk tales and such. But of course, it's all similar in a certain way, because whenever we hear a story, we're imagining, what if that was happening to me? So it really doesn't matter what type of story it is. It's all experience that we can identify with. Okay, our final 2 stories of the evening are from 2 Sharmas, Vandana Sharma and Meenakshi Sharma. So Vandana, you're also telling a personal experience story.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, please introduce yourself and tell us where you're telling from, and tell us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Eric. I'm based in Mumbai. And first, thank you so much for providing us this platform, Eric. And first, I would like to wish all of you, I mean, you've sent a written email to all of, you've sent a mail to all of us, but I'd like to wish each and every one of us a very productive and a peaceful 2022. Okay, so my name is Vandana Sharma. I'm based in Mumbai and I'm a life skills counselor at RN Podar School. I teach 11th and the 12th graders at Khar, Mumbai. And today I'm going to be telling you a personal story, a personal experience story called Emotional Connect Across Borders. So, yeah. Our daughter Rupangi, worked really hard to get into her desired course at Harvard. So my husband Sumant and I went to drop her, get her settled there at Boston. And on reaching Harvard Square, Boston, I was shell-shocked. I was shell-shocked to see so many tramps on the streets. And I had presumed America to be a wealthy nation. So I was pretty distressed. And to add to my woes, on another day, outside Target Square, I had this a very well-dressed young boy drinking a Coca-Cola asked us for money. But my presumptuous, bleakness of the life in America was short-lived. I met Carrie Lopresti. Now, Carrie was our landlady, Jean's daughter. Carrie was so chirpy, so warm, so lovable, and she felt like my own little one. So, and Carrie, she was very enterprising. So she told me that, why don't we do yoga? The very next day, she fixed a meeting for us to do yoga, and she invited her friend Heather to join us. So the three of us, the next morning, 6 a.m., early morning, we all went to the lawns outside the Cambridge Library, and we all did yoga. We did yoga asanas, we did Om chanting, we did the pranayams, and it was simply invigorating. The next day, husband and me were coming back from Rupangi's flat, and I heard my name. Vandy! Vandy! I was quite surprised. I stopped, I looked around, and guess whom I saw? I saw her. There was a known cyclist. So she was cycling past us, she saw us, and she stopped. I ran across to give her a warm hug. And the American warmth was so alive and so refreshing. And also my monochromatic thoughts were now being replaced by different hues. As cool as the turquoise green, as peaceful as the velvety light blue sky, as vibrant as rich golden yellow. One day, Sumant, Carrie, and I, we decided to travel to New York in a bus. This bus journey was so memorable. Carrie and I connected on a spiritual level. Carrie with her roomy quotes. She also shared and told me about Sanatana Kaur. She made me hear her actually. And Sanatana Kaur is an American who sings Indian devotional songs. And to my surprise, Carrie could recite the Gayatri mantra, the Gayatri chant. And both of us, we recited it 108 times. I taught her the Mahamrityunjay mantra. And this was such a spiritual connect. And the time just stood still. The day we had to come back from Boston, both Carrie and I were inconsolable. We were crying our hearts out. The American African cab driver who was waiting for us, patiently waiting for us, had a surprised look on his face. He looked aghast. to see the deep connect of the brown and the white. So once we were on our way to the airport, the cab driver spoke a lot with us. He shared that he used to drive the cabs during the mornings, and during the evenings, he was actually a professional reggae singer. And he also told us he enjoyed the Bollywood dancing, but not the Bollywood songs. And I am a diehard Elvis fan. And guess what I did? I took the plunge. Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we've drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. Someone said this world's a stage and each one plays a part. Act 1 is when we met. You read your lines so cleverly. I never mistook you. And then came Act 2. I've seen the change, you've acted strange. And why? I'll never know. Honey, you lied when you said you loved me. Now the stage is bare. I'm standing here and waiting. And if you don't come back to me, they'll get the curtain down. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? After that, the cab driver, during the journey, during our way back to the airport, he was quiet. He didn't say anything. But on reaching the airport, he told me he was so happy to hear the rock and roll king, Elvis Presley. And then he told me, "Ma'am, can I please hold your hands?" We both shook our hands really warmly and we bade goodbye. And at the Logan International Airport, I saluted the American flag. America had enriched me with this wholesome oneness, feeling of oneness with my own culture, and a deep connect with the vivacious Carrie Lopresti and her warm mother Jean, and a vibrant friend Heather. And I actually, that's my observation, which I made after that, was that a life becomes a full circle of happiness when we are secure in loving relationships. And in my case, it was a spiritual and an emotional connect across borders. Thank you so much.
You sing beautifully, beautiful. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I still made a lot of mistakes, Sharda, but you know, that's okay.
It didn't matter.
And I, you know, in my mind, I was saying, oh, Elvis, I can't do that to you. I can't do that to you, but I did it.
It was excellent. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And very well stated. Very nice. Very nice. Your story also is very good.
Thank you so much, Sharda. Thank you. Makes me feel so happy.
Vandana ma'am, wherever Elvis is, sure he will be happy to hear you.
Where are you? Who's this? I can't
I'm Ananta from Mumbai.
Ananta. Okay. Yes, Ananta. Thank you so much, Ananta.
Well, that was really delightful. And I'm so happy that the USA and Boston inspired you to sing like that. That's, you know, the USA has its problems, but it also has some value.
That's true. That's true.
How many years ago was this visit?
This is a decade ago.
Ah.
And you have that photograph. Why don't you show the collage? I'd send it to you. Forgotten, Eric?
You did, yes, you did send it to me.
Okay, let it be, because, you know, then it makes it quite real, because when I've spoken about all the characters, then it really becomes real. Though my hair were absolutely black, but then it's okay.
Yes, just a moment here. Share screen.
Yeah, please.
Here it is.
Yes, yes, yes. So the first one on the left side is Rupangi, and that's Jean. And down below, this is Heather, and that's me. This is us, Carrie, and I. This is at New York, and that's my husband Sumant, Jean, Carrie, and that's me. So thank you so much, Eric, because this becomes real, you know. It's like I wish I could actually invite Carrie, but then things didn't really work out. You know, she's been busy, and so has Heather been very busy, and Carrie wants to come to India. I don't know when she's going to come here. So the deep connect is there, and I think that's the most important thing, when you connect. And, you know, you don't realize how well she took to the chants. I can't tell you. And then, you know, even later on, Eric, she followed me. In fact, I had to send her audios, you know, about the Mahamrityunjay chant, you know, to, you know, okay, Vandy, am I making some mistakes? So it's amazing that, you know, you do connect to such vibrant souls and feel so blessed. It was a blessing for me. I mean, in my head, how I felt initially and what it turned out to be. So life continues, and we shouldn't be judgmental. We should just let things be and let the flow. I mean, just be open to everything around us. And I think then we'll be able to attract the maximum positivity, hopefully. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the shock of seeing so many homeless people. And I'm sure the number has only increased today, because economic conditions are more challenging today even. So that's it's all a part of it.
Yeah. Sad. Life. We never ever thought that we would have reached to such a level, and your mail was really, really beautiful, you know, because the way you mentioned it, the way you've written it, the way you've begun, I don't know how to say, you know, because the kind of feelings we had initially, we always, you know, had our egos, which were really supreme and riding high on our heads. And now all that has been crushed. So where do we stand, you know? So thanks so much, Eric. Really, once again, thank you so much for this platform.
Thank you. And you've inspired me to sing a song, which I will sing after this next story, after the recording has been turned off. So please, everyone, stay tuned.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any thoughts? Okay, that was a wonderful, wonderful Elvis Presley song. Thank you so much.
I will share. I will share, but really briefly, I promise. I really relate to what you shared because I've had it in the opposite direction, going to India, you know, having stereotypes broken, having these warm encounters, finding connections between the cultures, and having my life so enriched. And then having reverse culture shock when I come back to America and see all the things here that don't make sense and that are paradoxical. So thank you. And your singing act was great.
Thank you so much, Maya. Thank you so much.
No problem. Someday I'll sing an Indian song for you.
Wow, wow. And I'll sing it along with you.
Okay, Meenakshi. What I have written here about the story you're going to tell is that the title of the story is Intention, and that you're going to tell it as it was told by Birbal, who was one of the 9 jewels in Akbar's court. As Birbal was listening to the music made by Tansen, a maestro classical performer. Do I have it right?
Yeah, you have it right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so please introduce yourself. And so this is it's in a sense, it's an Akbar and Birbal story, but we're going to hear Birbal telling about a great musician who performed at the court. Okay, please take the microphone, take the stage, and tell us all about it.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and good morning, everyone. A very happy new year. I'm from Gurgaon. We all are actually, I feel, storytellers. Right from the time we are born, right from the time we start conversing, because we start talking to each other. But I took to storytelling only during the pandemic. And my thanks to SIAC and thanks to Eric, who have held my hand during, to teach me this skill of storytelling. And thank you, Eric, for providing this platform today. Thank you. So the story is not very long time ago. It was early modern period, or we can say later medieval period in the Indian history. It tells us about the great Mughal Empire, and especially the 3rd great Mughal Empire, Emperor Akbar. It's very difficult to tell about the grandeur and the life of the Mughals. But since I've been closely associated with the ruler, I'll try to do my best. Well, I am Mahesh Dutt Brahma Bhatt, a Brahmin from Uttar Pradesh. I came into contact with Akbar while he was going to Agra, and he was lost in the way. He was impressed by my answer to his question and asked me to accompany him to Agra, which I did. And since then, I have been a part of his court. Akbar is a dyslexic. He doesn't know and doesn't want to read and write. But I must tell you, he's a great learner. He has a lot of learning men around him who tells him everything orally. He listens to them intently and registers them. I call them the pool of resources that Akbar has. that enable him also to conduct his administration. They think ahead of times and they help him to unite this big empire, the subcontinent of India. Tansen joined Akbar court too. He's my friend, but he joined a little later. His real name was Ramanu Pandey. He was given this title by the Raja of Riva, where he was a court musician. When Akbar heard of this prodigious talent, he wanted him in his court as his 9 jewels, as his pool of resources. And he sent a messenger to the ruler of Reva. Initially, Tansen was reluctant. In fact, the title Tansen was given to him also by the ruler of Reva. But the ruler insisted, why not go and have a larger audience? It'll be good for you. So Tansen joined Akbar's court. Akbar soon became very fond of Tansen. In fact, he would take the liberty of going to him morning, evening, and would ask him to sing. Tansen was a superb court musician. He would mesmerize the courtiers with his singing. It was said that he would invoke any kind of emotion that he wanted through his singing. He would change the force of the nature. He would mimic the lion's roar and the chirping of the birds. Akbar would shower not just verbal praise on Tansen, but he was given enough of precious gold and silver. His popularity was increasing day by day. Once I remember saying Rag Drupad, all the courtiers were transported to a different state. But I could feel there was a lot of undercurrent in the court. And it was sad to see that some of the men were jealous and were scheming to let him down. Especially when they saw that Akbar would fondly call him as a friend, Mia. Once, when a conversation was going on, discussion was going on in the court, then Shaukat Mia came close to the ruler and said, Shahenshah, I think we must encourage Tansen now to sing Rag Deepak. Rag Deepak? Akbar wanted to know about it. Yes, Rag Deepak, that would light the lamps if it is sung very well. Tansen can do that. Let's ask him to do that for us. Akbar immediately liked the idea. He asked Tansing, why don't you sing Rag Deepak for us and light the lamp of the court? Tansing was reluctant. I could see the change of color on his face. I could see the mischievous smile on Shaukat Mia's face. Tansing looked at Akbar as if to ask, do I have to sing? And Akbar said, yes. In an insisting expression that was enough for Tansing to take the lead. He said, okay, give me time to prepare because I want to do my job perfectly well. Akbar said, go ahead. So saying, when the court was dispersed, Tansing walked out of the court. He was a little worried. I too moved behind him. And when we came face to face, I asked him, why did you not reject the proposal? Tansing looked at me and said, I wanted to. But the insisting expression on Akbar's face checked me to do so. I came closer to him, touched him on the shoulder, and told him, don't worry, Ma Saraswati will help you. Tansing looked into my eyes as if to check. Are you sure? I was sure. I was sure of Tansing's respect for the emperor. I was sure of Tansing's intention to make the ruler happy. And I was sure that he would do justice to his work. Ever since that day, Tansing was a little mentally disturbed. Fortunately, his daughter was also a singer. She observed her father keenly and inquired, Father, what's wrong? You're not eating your food well. You're not sleeping well. I see you waking up in the middle of the night and walking. Tansing told her about the singing of Rag Deepak in the court. The daughter's name was Saraswati. Saraswati said, Father, don't worry. You sing Rag Deepak and I will sing Rag Megh Malhar. That will counter the effect of Rag Deepak. Tansing looked at her fondly, as if he could see there was a ray of hope in this gloomy and impossible situation. And soon, the two, father and daughter, they started practicing. They worked hard for 2 weeks. That's 14 days. They worked hard. Tansing taught her the finer nuances of Rag Megh Malhar. He taught her about the Alap and when to intensify, went to make it less. He also instructed her to start the rag only when all the lamps have been lit. And then the day, the final day of the concert came. The stage was set. People from far and near came. Akbar came and sat on the throne. And he signaled to Tansen to begin the Rag Deepak. And as Tansen began to sing, Akbar and the courtiers, not me, everybody seemed to be in a trance. They seemed to be somewhere in a spiritual place. And as the rag was intensifying, as the song, the pitch was going higher, we could see the lamps being lit on the corners of the court first, and then the lamps arranged in the row. The courtiers could feel the heat, and some of them were perspiring and sweating. But, lo, behold, what's this? Tansen's clothes have caught fire. Tansen stopped singing. He ran out. And then Akbar's trance only broke when the song melody had stopped. But what's this? Where is this another melody? Rag Malhar. Where is this coming from? And as the Rag Malhar was being sung, there were showers, there were droplets. And as it was intensifying, Saraswati had synchronized the rag so beautiful that Tansen created the fire. But because of Rag Malhar, the fire was extinguished. Tansen was saved, and so were the courtiers. Akbar and everybody else saw this miracle. He got up from his throne, came forward to embrace Tansen. I could see that it was a victory of intentions, a victory of pure intentions. Shaukat Mia's desire and dream to bring Tansen to ashes was burnt forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that story was told with a great deal of joy. You really care about that story. What does it mean to you, that story? What is your takeaway from it? What is your... Oh, you're on mute, Meenakshi. Somehow you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. So this story has given me a lot of messages. One is the determination, the courage, and then you can change everything that you want, even if it is an impossible situation. With practice, with determination, with focus, you can change it. And then at the end of the day, it's the true intentions that matter and not deceit. Yeah.
And then somehow it will touch the heavens.
Yes.
Ma'am, shall I say something?
Yes.
Yes, that's Gayatri. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Gayatri.
The story which ma'am said now I have taught to my 6th class children.
And
Yeah,
when you teach it, what lessons do you bring out?
Yeah, when I was teaching them, I was more expressive, like what ma'am was giving her feelings, like when she says Raga Deepak or when she says Ragame, I brought every fact which is related to our Indian music. I was trying to sing more songs because I have basically learned some Carnatic music a few years ago. So I also sang some Carnatic songs to notify that how important music is given to in India. And I showed the Tansin's tomb, which is still now in Gwalior, and how he is is still being worshipped by the musicians and the music lovers. So that was a great story, ma'am. I would like to recall it, and the experience I had with my children, now I am experiencing it from you, ma'am. So, and they were a lot of moments that they asked me some questions. Please, if you don't mind, can I ask you, ma'am, that question? Because I was not able to answer those questions and I just ignored those questions in my class.
Go ahead, I'll try.
They asked me that when the daughters were singing that Ragame, ma'am, from where they are singing, where they are sitting and singing that, and how the people heard the music from there.
It was not inside the court. It was outside. The stage was set up away, but it was a kind of environment. And if you go to the forts, you will find that there are special places meant for the ladies to sit as well.
Yeah. I didn't say this much clearly, but I managed by saying that as this was like a hidden plan, they have some like dormitories or houses inside the court, and they're a little far away from where Tansen is singing, so that people can hear the singing. Like I managed my answer like that. Yeah.
Gayatri and Meenakshi, why don't you, if you like, you can send your email IDs to each other in the chat area. And if you want, you can send it privately from one of you to the other, because I think you both have a deep connection with the story and you might enjoy following up.
Thank you, sir. It's because of you that we have joined here. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Yes, Gayatri, I would like to say that when I was doing research for my story, and especially Akbar, I really went into the history and I enjoyed it. And that each time, NCERT class 6 would pop up. So, so then I went through that as well. And it would pop up, but it has limited thing. Yeah. But a lot
it has very that short part of the story. Yes. Not deeply connected. Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Anyone else want to say anything before we stop the recording? Well, I want to thank all the storytellers tonight. I think everyone was communicating very powerfully. Swati, Neerupama, Susan, Ida, Surekha, Amrita, Vandana, Meenakshi, each one of you was really connecting. So I want to thank you all very much. Does anyone want to say anything, or shall we end the recording? And of course, we can continue after the recording. But does anyone else want to say anything for the recording? Nope. Okay, so the recording will be stopped. Just a second.